I want to shift gears now and talk about the cultural decay, because I think that is a lot of what is the root cause of how people end up on drugs, unable to get off. The work ethic is so poor right now. I talk to small business owners all the time. They just say, I had the best pizza in Salt Lake. I've not found better pizza than Villaggio. He said he had guys coming in with beers, and they would try to drink while they were working. And then this guy would go out to his car, get high.
Yep.
And he's like, that's just the normal work ethic these days. What's up with the cultural decline? What's going on?
I'm going to explain it. We live in a permissive country. We promote drugs. We have these stores all over here in Utah selling kratom and other types of drugs. We are here. Listen to me very carefully. We are legalizing drugs in states. We are legalizing pot in many states. Let me share with you how this goes down. Richard, I'm going to assume at your age you are not a drug addict. But tonight you decided at your age, at 45, how old are you?
47.
You had to think about it, right?
Yeah.
You're 47 years old. You decide tonight you want to smoke pot. And track with me here. This is important. You smoke a joint tonight. I can almost guarantee you that you have the emotional intelligence and the intellectual capacity to not be doing meth in a year. I'm just going to smoke some pot as an adult. But now, legalize it. Now you're smoking pot every night. Your 13-year-old is coming home from school. What do they smell in the house?
Pot.
What are they stealing? Who are they stealing it from a year from now?
Me.
Their parents?
Yeah.
If they're stealing pot from their parents, they're hanging out with other kids that are getting high. Some of those kids aren't just smoking pot. Richard, we are creating drug addicts in this country. We are creating them. We are literally making it okay in this country to do drugs. I have a facility in Denver. We have a facility in Denver, right? Our site too. You can't go anywhere in Denver without smelling pot. I was just in New York. It is on all the city streets. Everybody is smoking pot out in the open. The kids are smelling it and they're seeing it. We are normalizing drug use in this country, and then again pretending like we care about what's happening.
But pot,
we're causing it.
But isn't pot just medicine?
It's not just medicine. You know, it's this science thing fascinates me.
I don't believe that either.
Yeah.
I guess I used to listen to my old roommates who were potheads say, dude, this is medicine.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I could justify it too.
And I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But it's like a psychotropic. It messes with your brain and your brain chemistry. You don't want to mess with that stuff,
Right.
especially if you're developing brain and you're under the age of 30. I mean, it's like, but you're right. It's become normalized.
So let's go back to the 13-year-old who's coming home and smelling pot at home. Then they're out smoking pot. They don't have the emotional intelligence or the intellectual capacity to not make worse choices a year from now. Pretty soon they're smoking pot, now they're drinking, and now their friends are doing meth or heroin. Guess what they're doing? Meth or heroin. We're causing the problem that we pretend to care about. We're causing it in this country. There's more drug use in this country than any other country on the planet. We are the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, but what's the solution? I had this guy, same guy I talked to, really intelligent, well-spoken guy. I'll publish the whole interview. He said, look at Spain. I didn't even know about the example of Spain. They essentially decriminalized drugs, but they criminalized open-air drug scenes. And they made treatment facilities available to everyone. And according to him, and I haven't studied it, I have to admit, but that is a much better model than what we're practicing, where we're allowing the Mexican drug cartels to control all the drug trade, that we're enriching them with billions of dollars, and now they control all the human trafficking as well. I mean, what would you suggest at this point when we're so far down into that Pandora's box?
The problem is what you just said, most people aren't even allowed to say. What you just said, we're not even allowed to say in this country anymore. Whether it's true or not, let's assume it's true. We're not even allowed to say it.
Say what?
The Mexican cartels are running everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you pay attention to where it's all coming from, it's all pointing from there, right? We have millions and millions of pills coming into this country over the border of fentanyl, and people are dying. Yet we're allowing people to come into the country, right? And it's at least from what I read in some of the articles, that's where much of it's coming from. We have to start taking some action. We've got to, because if you think the problem's bad now, wait till the fentanyl, I mean, it's already bad, but wait till all these other drugs start getting manufactured. And they're starting to manufacture the other drugs called Trank now that's killing people.
Gosh.
The problem is you can't even quantify the size of the problem, and our solution doesn't match the problem. We have to start taking steps if we want to save this country, because it is getting bad. It is getting really bad. It's not going to get better just going, oh, it's not your fault, poor drug addict. You have a disease, and relapse is part of recovery, so it's okay that you keep using. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so when you look at Utah and you look at our homeless NGOs and all of the money that's being poured into permanent supportive housing, deeply affordable housing, and you have all these components and pieces, would you assume that there's a good chunk of it that's just unaffordable housing, that we have to have much more affordable housing available, or do you think it's much more just the drug component of it?
I think there's some truth in both. I think we need affordable housing for those who can't afford the housing prices today, right? I think we do need affordable housing, but housing first does not work. If I'm a drug addict and I'm on the street and I have a tent, I have a roof over my head. If I'm a drug addict and I'm on the street and I'm living under a bridge, I essentially have a roof over my head. If we give a drug addict, a daily using drug addict, an apartment, let's go visit the apartment 90 days. They've destroyed it. It's become a drug den. People are dying in there. Housing first doesn't work. Hence the Other Side Village. We are going to build 450 tiny homes for our chronically homeless brothers and sisters that actually need it. But it's going to be a clean and sober environment. It's going to be a clean and sober village, unlike anything else in the world. And we've been all over the world studying it. We're going to ensure that it's a clean and sober environment. And if they start using again, we'll pull them out. We'll get them back into a treatment so they can come back again. But we're going to try something that nobody else has been able to do. People told us we couldn't do the Other Side Academy. At the Other Side Academy, we've been open now for 8 years. I've got 140 people living there right now. Every single person's on adult parole and probation. We have never given a dirty drug test to AP&P. The culture's so strong. It goes back to what you were talking about 10 minutes ago, the culture. We now live in a permissive culture that is promoting drug use. We're going to create cultures that do not promote drug use.
So the Other Side Village is housing first with personal accountability.
Absolutely.
That's the difference.
Absolutely. And we're going to have coaches. So let's say there's 450 homes. About 10% of those homes are going to be occupied by people just like you and me. We will be mentors, influencers, and coaches, ensuring that the culture stays strong. We're going to live there with them, just like I and our staff at the Other Side Academy live on property with our students. That's why we're so successful. That's why our success rate's so high, because we are with them 24/7. It isn't 1 hour a day touch points by some therapist. We're with them 24/7, and we will be at the village to ensure that the culture remains intact.
So to tie this back into what Housing First is and why it's failed and what you're doing differently, Housing First is, let's give people housing so they can work on their issues in the housing. Are you going to make people then basically come in clean and sober for a certain amount of time and then UI test them?
Yep.
And if they test dirty, you kick them out?
So we're going to have a welcome neighborhood. So let's fast forward 5 years and all 400 homes have been built. If you want in, you have to go through an interview process. If you're currently using, we're going to have you go through the welcome neighborhood and get clean and sober through the methods that we'll have there, right? You have to earn your way in. We want people who want to make changes in their lives and stop being drug addicts on the streets. If you want to continue to be a drug addict, then the neighborhood probably isn't for you. Mm-hmm. But right now, if you're a drug addict on the street, right now today, if you want to go to one of the shelters, what's going on in those shelters? Let's be honest.
Using drugs.
Right. And people have gone in there and stayed there. They've been robbed. They've been beat up. They've had their stuff stolen. We're going to ensure that stuff does not happen at the neighborhood, at the Welcome Village.
Mm-hmm. So you have a welcome village, which is like an intake center.
That's exactly it.
And then before they can come to the village and be an occupant,
we call it the welcome village or the prep school. Yeah. We're going to get you ready because the Other Side Village is permanent housing for those who need it. They can live there forever. But
it sounds like we need a welcome center that's
the
size of the state prison to put all the homeless people in right now, so they can all begin to get normalized.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem. There's no place for these people to go. So where my compassion is these police raids that they call abatements, and they do take all the people's possessions and property, and they do it unannounced. That's inhumane. But that's the policy they've enacted since Operation Rio Grande, and they keep pushing people further away from the services that they have. It's like St. Vincent's and Weigland Center. And then I go out there and I meet these people. I talk to them. I'm like, yeah, the one guy we talked to, he's 67 years old. He had been a smoker, not a drinker, not a drug addict, but had been priced out of his apartment, a senior citizen. And he's like, I can't walk the 3 miles to the St. Vincent's dining hall because I got really bad legs. That's my disability. Mm-hmm. And they just keep pushing people out, and then they mix in the senior homeless people with the drug addicts and the predators, and they're just driving down the state of the humans that are out on the street to a lower and lower level, till that it's like people are killing themselves. Right. And every time I go into Pioneer Park, the guy just hung himself. You just missed it. They just took away his body, and you got to have a compassionate solution for the people who are out on the streets.
Yeah, and accountability is compassion. Mm-hmm. Think about it. If we just allow people on the streets to do what they want, what do you expect to happen on the streets? We will lose our communities as we know them. If we just continue on this path of allowing people to do whatever they want, do drugs, sell drugs, steal people's stuff, steal their bikes, break into their cars. If you are a drug addict and you are a criminal committing crimes, you arrest the criminal. Mm-hmm. Why is it that the criminal is allowed to steal stuff that belongs to you or belongs to me? They're allowed to because they're a drug addict. That's their excuse. Mm-hmm. How come the person with heart disease isn't allowed to break into your home? I bet he goes to jail or prison. How come the person that's suffering from cancer can't steal that car and take it to a chop shop?
Well, I talked to Sim Gill about that. I was very thankful for him to come on and address these problems, because the number of homeless criminals out there on the streets with warrants or multiple warrants is enormous. Yep. They all have warrants, and they're all supposed to serve time. But the problem is they go into trial, and if they show that they're mentally incompetent to serve trial, the city prosecutor does not want to prosecute them for felonies. And so I said to Sim, so what are we doing then?
So they're mentally competent to commit crimes?
But
they're
mentally incompetent
to commit crimes. Mm-hmm. I am going to think this through. I am going to be calculated about it. I'm going to wait until those people leave, then I'm going to break into their home. That's not competence?
Yeah.
Then I can't have someone tell me in court that this is what you did?
I would assume anybody who's using fentanyl on a daily basis or drugs, their mental competency is going to decline at a rapid pace. And if they want to declare mental incompetency, all they need to do is get high before they go see the judge.
Sure, or go to or what ends up happening is everybody knows that when they go to court what to say while they're in court, right? To get off, and then they're back out there using again. Do you know how difficult it is to survive on the street? Do you know what it takes? And if you've never lived on the street, you don't. What it takes to live on the streets, how difficult that is to eat, shower, use restrooms, get your drugs, and survive requires immense competence.
Mm-hmm. And excluding the shower part, they're all doing it.
Right.
It
is not easy to survive on the streets, especially in the elements, all 4 seasons.
Yeah, and that's why so many of them are dying, and police don't want to tell us how many are dying.
I have 140 people living at the Other Side Academy. All 140 would tell you that jail saved their life. All 140. There will be no exceptions. They would all tell you the same thing. I have people who have come to the academy who have left, that go out there and are just doing dope. They're ODing at home. The parents ODing on the street, getting revived. ODing, getting revived. I go into the jails and I go into the prisons to do presentations, and I see people that I know that have come through and left, and they're like, Dave, I am so grateful to be arrested. I am so glad I'm in jail. I'm so tired of living that lifestyle. I've been down 60 days. I probably have a few more months, but I'm so glad because I'm not using anymore. I just didn't know how to get out of it. Jails save lives.
Yeah.
We have to be smarter once we have people. And I am meeting with Brian Redd tomorrow, the new executive director of the Utah Department of Corrections. We've been working together on some ideas. I'm meeting with him tomorrow. Where we're failing in America is you should not judge a community by how well it treats it's successful citizens. We should be judged by how well we treat our criminals. When I say well, don't misinterpret that. What are we doing with the Dave Durochers once they're incarcerated? Are we throwing them in a cell and just leaving them there with no programming? Or are we building in the programming inside the jails and prisons so that I can learn the things I need to learn to not go back out there to the same lifestyle? That's where we're failing. People say we can't incarcerate our way out of this problem. They're right. We can't. But when you incarcerate the criminal, you keep the community safe. And if we don't put public safety first, we're failing our community. We have to put public safety first. Mm-hmm. Once we're incarcerated, we need to do better with programming on the inside. And right now, we are failing miserably in the county jails and in the state prisons at programming.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely. And the small business owners around downtown Salt Lake City just
they're leaving,
trying to hang on, trying to figure out what they can do. They feel silenced, like they can't speak their minds. They're afraid of what's going to happen if they do. I mean, it's like we have to clean up what's going on.
Look what's happened in Portland. For those of you who want to learn, Google it later on. The Walmarts are closing, pizza parlors are closing, restaurants are closing.
Nordstrom's flagship store. I couldn't believe that.
The drug addict criminal is the protected class. You can walk into a Target or a Walmart with a shopping cart, put in less than, I don't know if it's $800. They're not allowed to stop you. They're not prosecuting. The drug addict criminal is the protected class. What the heck have we done? What have we done?
It's insanity. It's like common sense has been thrown out.
Now I know I don't have to go rob the bank to get $20,000 at one time. I can go to Walmart with a shopping cart every day and get $500 a day. We've incentivized it.
And is that happening all day long?
It's happening all the time. They're closing. All these businesses are closing. Heck, it's happening in Salt Lake. Businesses are leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a salon owner who called the cops because there was a man standing out in front for 10 minutes masturbating in the salon windows right there. Right. And she's like, this guy's here. And she's told by the police, oh, tell him to move along. I mean, a crazy guy's out there and masturbate, and you're supposed to just say, please move along. The police aren't able to respond to this incident. It's just like, how are you supposed to do business like that?
Right.
And then the defecation on the sidewalks, which I don't blame the homeless for that. They don't have porta potties.
Absolutely.
It's just like, I just feel like this widening gap between the homeless and the elites making policy, it's only getting wider. The elites don't want to talk to the homeless or watch this show or be on this show. Mm-hmm. So I wish I could say things would get better sometime soon, but it just seems like they're going to get worse before they get better.
We have to hold people accountable if you want to influence profound human change. It is hard to hold people accountable that are physically addicted right now. It is much more advantageous to hold them accountable once they're clean. Now you can say, here are your options. If you do this, we'll come back in and adjudicate your charges, whatever that might look like, depending on what the charges are. If you don't, you're going to do time. Eventually, Richard, I got tired of doing time, and I raised my hand and said, I want help. Then where do you send us? They have to have places that are effective, that are held accountable for their results, and that's where we're falling short.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a good place to wrap it up, unless we got any questions from the audience. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dave, for coming on. Really appreciate what you do and your programs. And when's the Other Side Village going to be opening?
We're literally, I think we're going to put a shovel in the ground here any day. We're getting through the environmental testing. We're almost done. There's just a lot of hoops to jump through. We've got about a dozen small homes, 350 square foot or so, already built. But any day, when I say any day, I mean literally any day, we should start getting some of the infrastructure in and getting some of the dirt in. Hopefully in the next 6 months or so, we'll have a slab on the ground and get our first homes put in. It's just taking some time.
That's
but
cool.
We're moving feverishly, and we're, like I said, we've got homes built. We've got donors that are lined up wanting to help. We've had a huge
It's interesting
groundswell.
how the money follows the good ideas.
Absolutely.
It seems like everybody wants to be behind what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Mo Egan was on here. He's the outreach coordinator.
Yep.
So you're getting a lot of interest from potential tenants as well.
And Mo Egan's a Delancey Street graduate like me. Those long-term therapeutic community programs work better than anything else.
Yeah.
They work better.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing the right thing. I just wish the government and the homeless resource coordinator for the state of Utah would follow your lead and do what's required. Personal accountability.
Personal accountability.
So, yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Appreciate it. So we are actually going to have a documentary film on homelessness in Utah, and it's going to be at Broovies. We've got the date. Save this date. It's going to be November 2nd. And we are going to have likely 2 showings, and we're going to have a panel of guests, and we're going to talk about the homeless problem. And it's going to be just such a cool, exciting event because everyone will be able to be involved. You'll be able to watch this film we've been working on for the last 2 years. We've got a great team of producers and editors working on it, and it is awesome. We've got the voices of the homeless, the voices of the advocates. So if you want to get a ticket to that screening, while supplies last, you can visit utahstories.com, and you can get a membership to Utah Stories. We'll provide a QR code and a link in this description if you watch this on YouTube to also just buy a ticket to the film. Right now, if you become a member of Utah Stories, which is $5 a month to support our journalism, you get a ticket included. We'll also have the option to buy a ticket without becoming a member. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.